Millionaire's heartwarming discovery. Maid reveals life-changing lesson to his twin daughters. In the heart of a picturesque suburban town in Illinois, a bustling household thrived like a finely tuned engine. At the center of it all stood Thomas, a successful entrepreneur poised at the pinnacle of wealth. He commanded conference rooms and clients with a confident flair, yet his biggest achievements felt hollow. For all the glimmer of his luxurious lifestyle, he was missing the most crucial connection of all, the warm embrace of his daughters, Emma and Sarah. As the twins meandered through the expansive hallways of their opulent home, a profound loneliness clung to them like a shadow. Their laughter was often hollow, filled with the echoes of a loving father who seemed perpetually lost in spreadsheets and emails. With summer's arrival, Thomas decided to hire Rosa, a single mother whose spirit radiated warmth, to help around the house. But unbeknownst to him, he was inviting a transformative force into their lives. Rosa's arrival sparked a flicker of interest in the girls, who thrived under her cheerful influence. When Rosa brought them into the kitchen to bake cookies from scratch, flour flew as their laughter filled the room, blending into an enchanting symphony of companionship. The giggles and flower fights they shared created a bridge that slowly connected their hearts, awakening an emotion they so desperately craved but had long been denied. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as the sun began to set on their summer days, a stark reality began to creep into their pristine world when a neighbor whispered racial slurs that curled like smoke around them, casting doubts and shadows on Rosa. Thomas stood at a crossroads, pulled by the expectations of his circle and the tender revelations brought forth by his daughters. The pressure to echo those unforgiving biases was suffocating, entangling him in a betrayal of character and humanity. Yet, amidst his turmoil, Emma and Sarah blossomed into fierce advocates, voices unafraid to speak their truths. They conceived a community fundraiser for Rosa's family, piecing together flyers with their hand-drawn art and heartfelt appeals. As they invited neighbors with a sense of urgency and purpose, they knit the fabric of their community together, opening a window to connections that had previously remained shut. As the event drew near, Thomas's heart twisted painfully in his chest. Watching his daughters awaken to something greater than material possessions, he felt himself pulled in two directions. This was no longer just about their status. It was about the warmth of family, the lessons of resilience, and the threads of compassion winding through their lives. As excitement and tension filled the air, an unexpected figure from Thomas's past emerged, challenging him to confront the very disparities he had unknowingly perpetuated. In that moment, amid the growing crowd and the energy pulsing in the air, Thomas knew he stood at a critical juncture. Would he let go of the status that had defined him? Or would his daughter's newfound strength and understanding break through his defenses? The echoes of past choices loomed large, leaving readers on the edge of their seats, desperate to discover whether he would step into a world of connection and love, or succumb to the pressures of privilege. As the day of the fundraiser dawned bright and hopeful, the air buzzed with anticipation. The twins had worked tirelessly, each flyer they created filled with vibrant colors and words of encouragement. Their passion painted the day with a sense of possibility that reached far beyond simple fundraising. In the kitchen, Rosa prepared snacks while Emma and Sarah polished their speeches, practicing intonation and rhythm with determined energy. Thomas watched them from a distance, his heart swelling with a mix of pride and trepidation. He felt like an outsider peering through a glass wall, aware that he was missing something precious. The laughter of the girls, filled with anticipation, reminded him of the joy he had long overlooked. As they loaded the car with posters, donations, and cookies, his phone vibrated incessantly with messages from business partners and friends. Each notification felt like an anchor, dragging him deeper into the waters of obligation and pretense. But every time he stole a glance at his daughters, a flicker of rebellion sparked within him. He was at a crossroads, teetering between two worlds, the glitz of his corporate life and the heartfelt simplicity being gifted to him by his daughters and Rosa. When they arrived at the community center, the atmosphere was electric. Neighbors gathered, some with skepticism in their eyes, others beaming with support. The sight made Thomas's chest tighten. How could he bridge the gap between the lives he had been living and the life he could embrace? Emma took center stage first, her voice ringing out like a bell. "Thank you for coming, everyone," she said, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Today, we're here to support Rosa and her family. They deserve our help just as much as anyone else." Applause erupted, washing over her like a wave of encouragement. Next, Sarah stepped up, her hands trembling slightly, but her resolve firm. "We can make a difference. Every little bit helps. And it's more than just money. It's showing that we care, that we are one community, that we stand together." She paused, eyes glistening with unshed tears, tears of hope. Something shifted in Thomas as he listened, their words igniting a fierce conviction within him. These two little girls were not just speaking, they were forging a new reality in front of him. They were reminding him of what truly mattered beyond wealth and status. But just as the crowd began to resonate with the girls' energy, a figure broke through the crowd. Alana, the very neighbor who had cast the first spark of doubt about Rosa, stood there with her arms crossed, face set in a tight line. The crowd hushed as her voice sliced through the air. "What exactly are you doing here, Thomas?" she challenged, her tone laced with disdain. Caught off guard, Thomas felt the eyes of the community turn to him, piercing him with judgment. All his past decisions were laid bare, and he could feel the weight of expectations pressing down on him. In that moment, his mind raced. Would he defend the very prejudices that had been perpetuated? Or would he embrace the lessons his daughters had learned, aligning himself with compassion? The tension thickened, a palpable mixture of anticipation and dread. Emma clutched Sarah's hand tightly, both looking up at their father, their innocent faces a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Thomas took a deep breath. Would he rise to the occasion, standing beside his daughters in solidarity, or shrink back into the shadows of societal pressure? The moment lay before him like an open road, leading to promise or peril. What path would he choose? The silence was deafening. Thomas felt the hard stares of the community pressing in around him like a suffocating cloak. Could he feel any smaller at this moment? Alana's eyes bore into him, expecting a response, and she wasn't the only one. The crowd shifted, their anticipation humming like a live wire. Taking a step forward, he felt a surge of adrenaline. "I'm here," he said, his voice steadier than he felt, "because my daughters asked me to support a good cause." The words hung between them, a fragile bridge. Emma and Sarah exchanged glances, the hope in their eyes glimmering like sunlight breaking through clouds. They were counting on him in this moment of crucial decision. Thomas swallowed hard, then continued. "It's important to help each other in our community, and Rosa deserves our care just as much as anyone." Alana raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "You've always been about your business, Thomas. Does standing up for someone like Rosa really fit into your picture of success?" The question stung. For a moment, Thomas was lost in memories of corporate meetings, deals sealed over wine and handshakes, and a life that had soared while others often sank. Deep down, though, he had grown weary of the superficial churn of wealth and status. Here stood Rosa's family, real and vulnerable, and his daughters, filled with fierce determination. Wasn't this what he should defend? "Success," he began, feeling the weight of sincerity in every word, "isn't just about the bottom line. It's about how we treat one another. It's about Community. Soft murmurs rippled through the crowd, the tide of cynicism gradually receding. Emma stepped forward and squeezed Sarah's hand, displaying quiet strength mirrored in her father's newfound resolve. Rosa stood off to the side, her eyes wide as she heard him speak. The uncertainty on her face slowly morphed into gratitude. Slowly, she moved closer, as if drawn by a magnetic force. "Thank you, Thomas," she whispered, her voice catching. "Your support means everything." As the warmth spread through him, so did an overwhelming sense of relief. He was no longer trapped between two worlds. He was choosing a new path. Thomas turned back to Alana, determination written across his face. "Helping someone in need doesn't take away from me. It adds to us all. That's what I have learned today." The crowd began to clap, carefully at first, unsure, but then building a rhythm as a genuine wave of applause swept over the center. People began to nod, acknowledging a change in the air, an invitation to join hands in collective strength rather than stand apart in judgment. At the forefront, the twins beamed with pride, their father finally embracing the bond they had yearned for. Emma took the moment to speak again. "We can all do more to show kindness. Let's raise our voices together." As she rallied the audience and voices began to rise, the atmosphere shifted. People were smiling, encouraging one another. The heavy cloud of doubt seemed to drift. Yet just as hope began to blossom, the front door burst open, and a figure stood silhouetted against the setting sun. An unexpected visitor whose arrival could change everything. Who had come to interrupt their moment of connection, and what did they want? A collective gasp echoed through the crowd as the figure stepped fully into the light. Charlie, the town's mayor, known for his sharp jaw and sharper tongue. The excitement in the air shifted, turning to apprehension. Charlie's expression was unreadable, his eyes scanning the assembly until they landed on Thomas. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his voice booming as he strode forward. "I leave for one evening, and our community gathers to throw a charity event without a nod from the city? First I hear of it." Thomas took a breath, the air thick with tension. Emma and Sarah instinctively moved closer to him, sensing the brewing storm. He stepped forward, determined to stand tall. "We're here to support Rosa and her family, Charlie. This is about community, not politics." The mayor narrowed his gaze. "All well and good, Thomas, but what happens when the town coffers run dry? Charity can't pay the bills. You're raising expectations without considering consequences." Thomas felt the warmth of hope within him waver. Charlie's words had cut deeper than he expected. He looked back at Rosa, whose shoulders sagged as though the weight of the mayor's skepticism pressed down on her. Had he opened a door only for it to be slammed shut again? "I'm not expecting handouts." "Just a show of support for one of our own," Thomas replied, his voice steadier than his heart felt. "Isn't that worth celebrating?" "Celebrating is not the problem." Charlie crossed his arms, dismissing the growing murmurs from the crowd. "The problem is bringing your daughters into this mess. They should be focusing on school, not charity work." Anger flared in Emma's eyes. "Why not both?" she shot back, surprised by her own boldness. "Maybe helping each other is the most important lesson we can learn." A ripple of approval traveled through the crowd, as if Emma's words struck a chord buried deep within their hearts. Still, Charlie was unfazed, continuing to dismiss them. "You think this is all fun and games? You can't play savior without understanding the realities we face." At that moment, a change flickered in Rosa's expression. She stepped forward. "Maybe we can learn together, Mr. Mayor. I can't promise I won't struggle, but my family deserves a chance just like everyone else. Maybe there's a way we can all benefit." A ripple of approval traveled through the crowd, as if Emma's words struck a chord buried deep within their hearts. Still, Charlie was unfazed, continuing to dismiss them. "You think this is all fun and games? You can't play savior without understanding the realities we face." At that moment, a change flickered in Rosa's expression. She stepped forward. "Maybe we can learn together, Mr. Mayor. I can't promise I won't struggle, but my family deserves a chance just like everyone else. Maybe there's a way we can all benefit." There was a cautious silence as the crowd processed her words. Each person shared a look, realizing they had more in common than they thought. "Rosa's right," Thomas chimed in, his heart swelling as he watched the atmosphere shift once more. "We can help each other elevate our challenges instead of coding them as problems. It's time to bridge gaps and create solutions where everyone feels included." The mayor hesitated, then softened slightly, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. "And how do you propose we do that?" Just as Thomas opened his mouth to respond, a low rumble of thunder echoed in the background, prompting heads to turn skyward. Clouds had begun to gather ominously, a reminder of the storm brewing beyond their gathering. Tension rolled back into the air, leaving its mark. For a moment, it felt as though unity was within reach. But then Charlie cleared his throat, his gaze stern. "You think these words will change state policies? I want concrete plans." As the wind picked up, knocking over a nearby table, Thomas sensed the urgency in the air. This is no longer about Rosa or the mayor. It was about the town, about them all standing together or letting the storm pull them apart. "Let's figure it out," he said, determination fueling his every word. "Together." But as he spoke, the door behind him swung wide again, revealing yet another figure. A woman wrapped in a dark coat, her eyes hidden beneath the brim of her hat. "Who are you?" someone called out, but the woman only stepped forward, her voice low yet commanding enough to silence the crowd. "I know something you all need to hear. About Rosa." The whisper of uncertainty returned, casting a fragile blanket over the gathering, as hearts pounded into anticipation. Would this revelation unite them, or threaten to fracture their new bond? The woman paused, allowing her words to settle in the air, heavy with promise and anxiety. The crowd was transfixed, a mix of confusion and intrigue dancing across their faces. She lifted her chin slightly, her coat fluttering with the growing breeze, and revealed a pair of eyes filled with an intensity that pulled them all in. "Rosa has a story you don't know, one that can change everything for your community," she said, her voice steady yet filled with an unmistakable urgency. Thomas's heart raced. He felt as if they were teetering on the edge of a precipice, about to either soar into a new understanding or plummet into chaos. Emma glanced at her sister, Sarah, whose brow furrowed in uncertainty. "What do you mean?" Charlie's skepticism tempered the atmosphere, but even he appeared intrigued, his arms unfolding slightly. Taking a breath, the woman continued, "My name is Mary Ann. I was hired to clean this town's mayoral office and inadvertently discovered details about the state funding and community programs that directly influence families like Rosa's." The crowd buzzed with whispers. Could this be the catalyst they needed? Rosa shifted her weight, intrigued but nervous. Mary Ann nodded, as if affirming Rosa's unspoken thoughts. "Rosa's family has been let down by a system that doesn't promote transparency. The funds are there, but are often misdirected or squandered on red tape. I've seen it firsthand." "Is that true?" Charlie's brows knitted together, and for a moment vulnerability seeped into his posture. The mayor, usually so steadfast and unyielding, suddenly appeared human. Rosa stepped forward, her courage ignited. "I had no idea," she said, her voice trembling. "So all this time, there were resources we could tap into?" Mary Ann turned to her and smiled softly. "Yes, you shouldn't have to fight alone. Your needs can and should be part of this discussion. But it requires all of us to make it happen." A tidal wave of realization washed over the crowd. The battle wasn't simply about charity. It was about reclaiming their rights as a community. "I think," Thomas started, soaking in the depth of Mary Ann's revelation, "if these funds exist and could be diverted toward tangible programs, then supporting Rosa isn't just an act of goodwill. It's our responsibility to ensure everyone has access." Cheers erupted from the crowd, a collective heart lifting as hope blossomed once more. Even Charlie looked compelled, his mouth set in a contemplative line. "Fine, let's say this is feasible," he replied, an edge of challenge still in his tone. "What's next? How do we start making these changes?" Rosa felt a wave of warmth flooding her chest. "We can gather information, share stories, and demand change. If we unite, we'll have power." As the wind soured, bringing with it the scent of rain, it felt as if the heavens themselves were nudging them along. The storm looming above could either tear them apart or reshape their resolve into something stronger. But just as Thomas was about to speak again, a crack of lightning split the sky, followed closely by another rumble of thunder. The crowd winced collectively, their excitement pausing at the raw power of nature. Mary Ann's expression hardened, suddenly serious. "This storm is a metaphor for what's coming. You all need to decide how to face it together, or it will tear you apart." As the first drops of rain began to fall, a fierce determination sparked in the air. Thomas glanced around at the faces surrounding him, resolute and ready for whatever came next. "Are you with us?" he asked the crowd, voice ringing with confidence. They nodded, a chorus of agreement building as the rain began to pour. Yet, amidst the collective hope, doubt too threaded through the air. Would they truly unite, or had they only just begun to scratch the surface of a far deeper issue? With a heavy heart, Thomas realized this was only the beginning. The coming storm held more than rain. It harbored whispers of change, voices that could unite or further divide them. Could they withstand what was to come? As the rain cascaded, washing over them like a baptism, Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that this revelation was just the first ripple in a much larger wave. What more awaited them just beyond the horizon? The rain fell heavily now, soaking through clothes and chilling skin, but no one seemed to mind. It was as if the downpour washed away their doubts, leaving only a sense of purpose behind. Thomas could see the determination etched on the faces around him. People began to rally, shouting for change, for a new beginning, their voices rising above the rumbling thunder. "Let's meet tomorrow," Emma called out, pulling at her sister's sleeve. "We can be the ones to get the word out. We need to gather everyone." "I'll spread the word," Sarah chimed in, her excitement infectious. "If we work together, we can map out what we need, the programs we want, the help that's available." Mary Ann nodded, the hint of a smile breaking through the downpour. "Yes, you'll need to build a coalition, make a plan, and be relentless." Thomas felt an electric thrill surge through him. It was not just about Rosa anymore, it was about the whole community. "Let's focus on the kids," he suggested, raising his voice over the sound of rain pounding the pavement. "They're our future. If we can secure programs for them, the impact will resonate across generations." The crowd murmured in agreement, fueled by a shared vision. There was a spark in the air, a sensation that perhaps, just perhaps, they were on the cusp of something extraordinary. But deep inside, a nagging worry simmered in Thomas's gut. What if this was all talk? What if, when the sun finally broke through the clouds, the old patterns crept back in? He shook his head, willing himself to cast aside those thoughts. This was about hope. This was about power. As the rain let up, leaving behind a glimmering sheen. On the pavement, Mary Ann leaned over to Rosa. "You're going to have to lead the way," she said earnestly. "Your story is powerful. Share it with everyone you can." Rosa nodded, but the weight of responsibility hung heavily on her shoulders. "I don't know if I'm ready," she admitted, glancing back at the crowd. "What if they don't listen?" "They will," Thomas assured her. "Your message needs to be heard. You have a chance to make them feel what you felt, to show them what they've been blind to. Your voice is your biggest weapon." His words seemed to embolden Rosa. She stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tremor beneath the surface. "I'll do it. I'll share my story." "Together," Emma shouted, raising a fist in the air. "We'll support you." A wave of enthusiasm swept through the people, their spirits rising like the sun peeking from behind the clouds. They had shifted from spectators to participants. The collective heartbeat of the crowd quickened with excitement and determination. Just then, the electrical energy in the air shifted. The once menacing clouds drifted apart to reveal a rainbow arching across the sky. Gasps erupted from the crowd, all eyes trained on the vibrant display, a living symbol of their hopes. "It's a sign," someone shouted, the joy sparking in everyone's heart. But then Thomas noticed something. A shadowy figure loomed behind the smiling faces. The mayor, standing at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed and expression unreadable. The excitement faltered for a split second as his presence loomed large, reminding everyone of the very system they sought to change. In that moment, Thomas's heart raced again. The storm might have passed, but the real test was just beginning. They needed to face the mayor, to challenge the very authority that had kept Rosa and others like her crying out for help all this time. "Let's not wait. We have momentum," Thomas urged, grabbing Rosa's hand and pulling her toward the gathering. "We have to confront him now. We're done being ignored." Rosa's breath caught in her throat, the moment feeling monumental. She tightened her grip, summoning her courage. "Together," she whispered. As they approached the mayor, the reality of what they intended began to sink in. They were stepping into a storm of a different kind, one that could either solidify their union or deepen the divide. Would they be brave enough to challenge what had long been accepted? The group closed ranks, a shield of solidarity forming around Rosa. A single question lingered in the air. Were they ready to face the authority that kept so many silenced? With every heartbeat, their resolve strengthened. It was time. They were going to make their voices heard, come what may. As they moved forward, Thomas felt the weight of Rosa's hand in his tighten. The energy around them shifted once more as the crowd surged with a collective breath, like a wave poised to crash. The mayor stood tall, but for the first time, his authority felt less like a wall and more like a door ready to be pushed open. "Let's make our voices heard," Emma shouted, standing resolute beside Sarah, who nodded fervently. The girls exchanged a glance, a mixture of fear and excitement that mirrored what Thomas felt. Each face in the crowd held a different story, yet they were united by one shared goal: change. "Rosa," Thomas called, his voice rising above the murmurs. "Show him why we're here." Rosa hesitated, the gaze of the mayor weighing heavily on her. She looked back at the faces around her, hopeful, anxious, vulnerable, yet fierce with determination. Every voice counted. That thought propelled her forward. She stepped ahead, breaking the invisible barrier that had kept her silent for so long. "Mr. Mayor," she began, her voice steady as the weight of her truth flooded her. "I'm Rosa, and I'm here because we can't wait any longer. My story isn't just mine, I'm just one of many. Children every day are struggling. They miss out on opportunities. They face challenges that are ignored." "Rosa," Thomas called, his voice rising above the murmurs. "Show him why we're here." Rosa hesitated, the gaze of the mayor weighing heavily on her. She looked back at the faces around her, hopeful, anxious, vulnerable, yet fierce with determination. Every voice counted. That thought propelled her forward. She stepped ahead, breaking the invisible barrier that had kept her silent for so long. "Mr. Mayor," she began, her voice steady as the weight of her truth flooded her. "I'm Rosa, and I'm here because we can't wait any longer. My story isn't just mine, I'm just one of many. Children every day are struggling. They miss out on opportunities. They face challenges that are ignored." The mayor shifted, his arms uncrossing slightly. The crowd leaned in, drawn to the fire igniting in her words. "We can't allow our youth to fall through the cracks anymore," she insisted, her voice rising in pitch with emotion. "Invest in us, invest in our future. Programs to uplift our kids, not just promises." An electrifying silence enveloped the crowd, their breaths held. Even the air felt charged, waiting for the mayor's response. His brow furrowed as he processed her words, the eyes of the entire community locked on his expression. "Do you really think money will fix this?" he asked, skepticism curling around his words like smoke. "It takes more than resources." "And it takes more than just words," Rosa shot back, fueled by courage. "It takes action. It takes listening to us. We are here to work together to build something that lasts." She glanced at Thomas, who nodded toward her, his heart swelling with pride. She was no longer the girl lost in the shadows. She was strong, and her voice resonated with purpose. The crowd murmured in approval, repeating phrases of support, a chorus of determination. Marianne stepped up next to Rosa, adding to the heat of their collective plea. "We're ready to partner, to engage. The community is here, willing to help. Let's show you how this can be a reality, not just an idea. Let's start fresh." The mayor's brows dug deeper into his forehead. His expression shifted from arrogance to contemplation. "You want change? Then you need a plan. You must come prepared with more than just stories." A murmur passed through the crowd, disappointment mingling with determination. Thomas stepped closer. "We know we need a plan, and we'll build it together. But it starts right here. It starts with this moment." Rosa nodded, fire igniting in her chest. "We'll come back with ideas, but you have to understand, this isn't just talk. We want change." In that moment, a connection sparked, one born of mutual recognition. They were all human beings in this struggle together, fighting for tomorrow, not just for themselves, but for every child's tomorrow. And as a flicker of hope danced in the mayor's wary eyes, Thomas felt the truth of their movement, the urgency of possibility. Would they really get through to him? Could this moment become the catalyst for real change? In the shadows, doubt still loomed, yet before them lay an opening. The mayor's expression transformed, a hint of reluctant curiosity creeping into his demeanor. "Okay," he finally said, his voice steadying. "Let's see what you've got. But remember, change demands hard work from all of us." The crowd erupted into cheers, clarity rippling in the air. They had taken the first step into a new realm of possibility. As they celebrated their small victory, Rosa felt lighter, buoyed by the collective spirit of her neighbors. In that laughter, in that joy, a new challenge awaited. How would they turn those plans into reality? A faint raindrop fell, reminding everyone of the storm they had just emerged from. But for Rosa, that drop felt like a promise, the promise of a new dawn. How far would they go to ensure their future? What would they risk to transform the hope ignited today into lasting change? Excitement rippled through the crowd like a current, and Rosa could feel her heart racing as the mayor's words sank in. This was a pivotal moment, an invitation to do something bigger than themselves. She shared a determined look with Thomas, whose eyes sparkled with possibilities. They were ready to build a plan, not just a dream. "Let's do this," Thomas whispered, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. As the crowd began to disperse, anticipation buzzed in the air. The group of young advocates formed a huddle, adrenaline fueling their discussions. "We need to act quickly," Emma said, her voice filled with urgency. "The mayor's not a fan of waiting." Rosa nodded. "We need to gather ideas from everyone. We have to show him how many voices are behind this." Marianne chimed in. "Yes, we can split into teams to brainstorm different areas, education, community centers, health initiatives. There's so much we can do." Thomas felt a thrill of hope. They were moving from words to action. But a small lump of anxiety lingered in the back of his mind. It was one thing to dream of change, another to create it. What if they failed? As the sun began to dip in the sky, casting long shadows over the park, the group strategized on a grassy patch, their enthusiasm unabated by the creeping twilight. They divided responsibilities and set a timeline, each member igniting their passion to contribute. Rosa took a deep breath, her thoughts racing. We need to connect with local businesses too. They might support our initiatives. They want to invest in the community, she suggested. Sarah nodded. I can talk to my aunt at the bakery. They've always wanted to get involved more in local events. Things started to take shape. Ideas flowed freely, but beneath the surface, doubts lurked like shadows threatening to overwhelm their light. Rosa caught Thomas's eye. There was determination, yet vulnerability in his expression. Be honest, Thomas. How do you really feel about all this? She asked softly, her voice cutting through the excitement. He hesitated, then spoke. I'm scared. What if we put in all this effort and it doesn't lead anywhere? What if the mayor just brushes us off? Rosa felt a pang of empathy. I get it, but what if it does work? What if we change lives? Encouraged, Thomas nodded slowly. You're right. We have to at least give it a real shot. We owe it to all those kids who need this change. After formulating their plan, the group decided to host a community meeting for the following week, inviting everyone to offer input. This was not just their fight. They needed every voice, the parents, the teachers, everyone who cared. As they wrapped up their brainstorming session, a renewed sense of purpose filled the air. They had set a date, a time to gather ideas and stories to bring back to the mayor. Plans in place, they felt the dawn of potential rising. But the journey wouldn't be easy. As they walked home, the evening air began to chill, and doubts crept back in. Would the community rally behind them? Would the mayor really listen to their voices? Or would they be just another fleeting moment in a busy calendar? Rosa took in a deep breath, a mixture of excitement and apprehension bubbling within her. Change was in their grasp, but it wouldn't happen without struggle. How do we keep this momentum going? She wondered aloud as they strolled through the dimly lit streets. I don't know yet, Thomas replied, staring ahead, lost in thought. But we can't lose faith. We have to remember why we started. Little did they know, a huge obstacle was on the horizon, one that could shatter their newfound hope. Just as they rounded the corner, a familiar figure emerged from the shadowy street, a figure that held the power to either help or hinder their efforts entirely. Rosa's heart raced at the sight as she realized who it was. Would this person be the key to their success, or would they threaten everything they had worked for? Rosa stopped in her tracks, her breath hitching. It was Mr. Anderson, the wealthy developer who had a reputation for being ruthless in business. She could feel Thomas tense beside her, uncertainty pulling at their resolve like a tightrope ready to snap. Hey there, kids, Mr. Anderson called out, a crooked smile spreading across his face. What brings you out here? Planning a little revolution? Rosa's heart raced with a mix of fear and determination. He had the influence to either support their cause or crush it entirely. Actually, yes, she found herself saying, her voice firm, despite the flutter of trepidation. We just heard the mayor's plan for community development, and we're starting our own project to improve things around here. Mr. Anderson raised an eyebrow, feigning surprise. Really? And what makes your voices matter in the bigger picture? The question hung heavy in the air, like a challenge. Instead of backing down, Thomas stepped up, fueled by a sudden surge of bravery. Because our community matters. We have ideas that can change lives and people who want to make a difference. There was a brief silence. Rosa caught a flicker of something in Mr. Anderson's eyes, curiosity or perhaps interest. It was hard to tell. Interesting, he mused, glancing from Thomas to Rosa. I don't often hear that kind of passion from your generation. Most just complain. Rosa gulped. Well, we're done complaining. We're going to create opportunities for everyone. She was surprised at her own fierceness, but a part of her felt it was right. All right then, he said, leaning in closer. You have my attention, but I need to warn you, there's a long road ahead of you, filled with obstacles, and not everyone will be on your side." She nodded. "We know, but we're committed. We want to do this for our friends and family." Mr. Anderson chuckled, a low, gravelly sound. "Sounds like you're in over your heads, but I admire your spirit. Tell you what, if you can get the community on board, I might just consider putting some funds behind your ideas." The shock of his offer hung in the air like a new possibility. Rosa exchanged a glance with Thomas, her pulse racing. They needed to rally the community, and fast. "Really?" Thomas blurted, a blend of disbelief and hope flashing across his face. "Sure, but don't think it's going to be smooth sailing. You'll need leverage. You'll need real stories that matter to everyone." Mr. Anderson leaned back, crossing his arms. "So, think carefully about what you're doing. You've got one shot to impress me." Rosa couldn't help but smile, feeling a twinkle of hope. Just maybe they had made a breakthrough. "We'll take that as a challenge. We won't disappoint you." As Mr. Anderson nodded and walked away, the realization of what had just happened hit her. This wasn't just an opportunity, it was a lifeline. But as the excitement began to swell within Thomas and her, she felt that gnawing doubt creeping back in. "Do you think we can actually pull this off?" she asked, turning to Thomas, her voice laced with uncertainty. "We have to believe we can. If we show the community what's at stake, they'll stand behind us," he replied, though a flicker of doubt shadowed his eyes. Rosa took a deep breath, their task now larger than life. They had just gained a powerful ally, but the stakes were higher than ever. She could almost hear the echo of their voices intermingling in the park, filled with hope
and doubt. As they moved forward, a question lingered in Rosa's mind. Would the community embrace their vision, or would they stumble in their attempt to change the narrative? The next step loomed, filled with urgency and a chance for real, tangible transformation. They walked on, navigating through their thoughts, the sound of their steps mingling with the chatter of the city as night fell. They had a mission, but now they had to figure out how to inspire others to join them. And just as they turned another corner, a sudden chill ran through the air, making Rosa shiver. She sensed something else approaching, another complication that could shift everything they had worked for. What lay ahead could make or break their newfound hope. The community meeting arrived, and excitement buzzed through the air like static electricity. Chairs filled the town hall, voices mingling with laughter and murmurs, each person eager to share their thoughts, their hopes. This was no longer just Rosa's story, it was theirs too. Thomas stood at the back of the room, watching as his daughters beamed with pride. Emma and Sarah had never looked more radiant. They were armed with their colorful posters and heartfelt speeches, ready to present their vision to their neighbors. It was thrilling to see their enthusiasm transform, electrifying the community with their determination. As Rosa stepped up to the mic, she took a moment to gather her thoughts. The crowd fell silent. She felt the warmth of their support wash over her like sunlight. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she started, her voice steady despite the rapid beating of her heart. "Today, we're here to talk about more than just charity. We're here to create lasting change, together as a community." The whispers of agreement rippled through the audience. A sense of unity flickered in the air. Rosa continued, "We want programs that support our children, resources that lift families like mine. It starts with listening to the struggles we face every day." Her heart swelled as she glanced at Thomas, who nodded with encouragement. The door swung open, and in stepped Mr. Anderson. He strode into the room like a king surveying his kingdom, and instantly the atmosphere shifted. Eyes darted nervously toward him, uncertainty casting a slight shadow. "Just checking in," he said, with a slight smirk that didn't quite mask a glimmer of intrigue. Rosa felt her pulse quicken. His presence alone felt like a challenge. She couldn't allow fear to overshadow their determination. "Thank you for being here, Mr. Anderson," she said, steadying her voice. We've gathered stories, ideas, real proposals from the heart of our community. The crowd responded, voices rising with excitement, sharing insights and experiences that united them, weaving their struggles into a beautiful tapestry of hope. As ideas unfolded, energies began to ignite. Emma expressed the need for after-school programs. Sarah proposed community garden projects. Each suggestion sparked a further dialogue, heads nodding, hearts swelling. Thomas finally
found his voice. This isn't just talk, it's action. We can transform our town into a place where everyone has opportunity. We just need to bridge the gap. The words flowed, an unspoken connection igniting the room. Mr. Anderson watched intently, arms crossing tightly over his chest, intrigued by the blossoming passion around him. It was clear the energy had shifted since their last encounter. But then the mayor entered, drawing everyone's attention as if he held a spotlight. "What's this, an uprising?" he joked with a wry smile, yet the tension between him and the crowd lingered in the air heavily. "We want to propose a collaborative plan," Rosa asserted, courage bursting within her. "A real partnership where we allocate funds and foster programs that encourage growth and community involvement." Charlie looked skeptical. "You truly think you'll have my backing without a clear strategy? You're just kids playing at activism," he quipped, deliberately discrediting their ideas. Rosa felt a twinge of panic but pushed it aside. "We're not here just as kids. We're representing families and lives that matter." Her voice rose with conviction, the anger sparking a fervent flame within. "We are not leaving until we lay the groundwork for change." The crowd erupted in applause, a chorus of support that swelled through the room. Emma shouted, "Let's show him what we have planned." Grabbing the poster they'd created, filled with colorful charts and clear proposals, she waved it in the air. "This is our vision: community education programs, resources for families, mentorship opportunities." As the excitement buzzed, Thomas stepped forward, feeling emboldened by the collective voice. "If our voices unite, we can become a force for change. Together, we have power." Mr. Anderson shifted, clearly considering their passion, yet the mayor's face remained unyielding, frustration brewing beneath his stern exterior. Rosa took a breath, thinking fast. "Mr. Mayor, you said you were willing to listen. We need to act. Let's work together to mobilize resources. Let us show you the heart of our community. Let's make it undeniable that we need new programs, a vision, a mission for everyone." In that moment, the undercurrent of purpose flowed through the room, lifting spirits, forging determination. The mood shifted again. The reality was palpable. They were all standing at the edge of transformation. Mr. Anderson opened his mouth to speak, but before he could respond, the mayor raised a hand. "Wait," he commanded, a small flicker of respect flashing across his features. "Let me think. Show me your strategy. Show me numbers, results, and I will consider more than just a suggestion." The crowd hushed, hearts racing. Just like that, they were given a glimpse of hope, the opening they desperately needed. Rosa exchanged glances with the twins, feeling momentum shift. "We will," she vowed, her heart brimming with fierce determination. They had ignited a powerful fire. As the meeting closed and people poured into the night, Rosa felt exhilarated but apprehensive. They had a real task ahead of them, actualizing their dreams meant squaring off against the system. But deep down, she knew they had what it took. They were heading toward a new dawn. And from the whisper of storm clouds drifting away, a vibrant sun seemed to peek through, announcing the start of something beautiful. It was an invitation, an urgent call to turn their hope into action. With myriad ideas swirling in their minds, they were ready to script a future filled with possibility. Together, they knew they could achieve something extraordinary. As they stepped out into the cool evening air, the weight of uncertainty lingered, but so did the warmth of a collective heart beating as one. With everything they had and everything they'd become, they were about to redefine the future. Now the real journey lay ahead, and Rosa felt certain. Together, they were unstoppable. If you believe in the power of community like Thomas and Rosa do, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you never miss our exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your thumbs up really makes a difference. Comment with your reactions about this inspiring journey and your feelings about the community's powerful transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how change can happen when we stand together. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.